Every performance review, your manager tells you that you're doing great work. Every project, you deliver. Every metric, you hit. And yet something has shifted. The meetings you used to attend, you're no longer invited to. The information you need to do your job arrives late, or not at all. Your manager, who used to stop by your desk, now walks past without making eye contact. You tell yourself you are imagining it. You tell yourself it is just a busy season. But deep down, you know something is wrong. You just cannot prove it. Here is what is actually happening. You're being frozen out. And by the time most people realize it, they are already at stage 3. The freeze out is the most common way companies push employees to quit without ever having to fire them. It is deliberate, it is systematic, and it leaves almost no fingerprints. This is office warfare, where careers are won, lost, and sometimes sabotaged, and nobody tells you the rules until it is too late. I'm going to show you exactly how the freeze out works, the 5 stages it follows, why most people never see it coming until it is too late, and what you can do at each stage to protect yourself, fight back, or get out on your own terms. Once you see this pattern, you will never look at your workplace the same way again. Here's the thing nobody tells you about getting pushed out. Companies almost never want to fire you directly. Firing means severance packages. Firing means unemployment claims. Firing means potential lawsuits, especially if you are in a protected class. Firing means paperwork and HR headaches and managers having uncomfortable conversations they would rather avoid. But if you quit, none of that applies. You walk away with nothing, and they wash their hands of you completely. A May 2025 survey of over 1,100 U.S. business leaders found that 53% of companies are now engaging in or actively planning quiet firing tactics. 34% explicitly said the goal was to avoid paying severance. This is not paranoia. This is documented corporate strategy. The tactics they use follow a predictable pattern, a pattern researchers have studied for decades. Kipling Williams, a psychology professor at Purdue University and the world's leading researcher on ostracism, conducted brain imaging studies that revealed something disturbing. When people experience social exclusion, the dorsal anterior cingulate cortex activates. That is the same region of the brain that processes physical pain. Being frozen out does not just feel like it hurts, it literally hurts. Your brain processes workplace exclusion the same way it processes a punch to the gut. And unlike physical pain, Williams found that social pain can be relived again and again every time the memory resurfaces, every cold shoulder, every meeting you were excluded from, every time you found out about a decision after it was already made. Your brain experiences the pain fresh each time. This is why the freeze out is so effective. It does not leave bruises. It does not create the kind of hostile work environment you can easily document. It just slowly, methodically makes your professional life unbearable until you cannot take it anymore. So let me walk you through exactly how it works. Stage 1 is the subtle chill. This happens in weeks 1 through 4, and it is almost impossible to detect in real time. Your manager's emails get a little shorter. Conversations feel slightly more transactional. You notice reduced eye contact, briefer interactions. Maybe you get excluded from one meeting that you normally would have attended, but it seems like an honest mistake. Small criticisms start appearing in places where you used to receive only praise. Nothing dramatic. Nothing you could point to and say, this is it, this is proof. The warning signs at stage 1 are subtle. Your manager stops scheduling regular one-on-ones or cancels them repeatedly. Projects you expected to work on get assigned to someone else. Colleagues seem slightly more distant, though you cannot quite explain why. Most people at stage 1 tell themselves they are overthinking it. They are not. Stage 2 is the information freeze, and it typically runs from weeks 2 through 8. This is where isolation becomes systematic. You are left off email chains that directly affect your work. You are excluded from key meetings where decisions are made. Your manager starts going directly to your subordinates, bypassing you entirely. Access to leadership diminishes. You learn about changes to your own projects after they have already been decided. The warning signs at stage 2 become clearer. Colleagues know information you should know. Meeting invites that used to come automatically just stop arriving. When you ask why you were not included, you get vague answers. Scheduling conflict, oversight, we will loop you in next time. But next time, the same thing happens. Stage 3 is the assignment squeeze, running from weeks 4 through 12. This is where marginalization becomes unmistakable. Your key responsibilities start getting removed. You're given undesirable projects, busy work, or tasks that have no visibility. Your workload either drastically decreases, making you appear unproductive, or impossibly increases, setting you up to fail. Either way, you lose. The warning signs at stage 3 are impossible to ignore. Your best projects get reassigned to colleagues. You're asked to train someone who, you slowly realize, might be your replacement. People stop consulting you on your area of expertise. Work that used to flow through you now flows around you. At stage 3, most people finally admit to themselves what is happening. But by then, the damage is already significant. Stage 4 is the documentation trap. This runs from weeks 8 through 16 or longer, and it is where the company builds its paper trail. A performance improvement plan appears, seemingly out of nowhere. Your performance reviews, which were positive for years, suddenly turn negative. Minor errors get highlighted and formally documented. Your targets become vague, subjective, or literally impossible to achieve. Netflix co-founder Mark Randolph captured what everyone in corporate America knows but rarely says out loud. PIPs are not performance improvement plans. They are prove I am pathetic plans. The goal is not to help you improve. The goal is to create documentation that justifies what they have already decided to do. The warning signs at stage 4 are the most dangerous. A PIP appears without any prior discussion of performance issues. Goals are written in language so vague that success becomes unmeasurable. HR suddenly gets involved in routine matters. Everything gets put in writing. Stage 5 is the final push. This continues until you resign, which is exactly what they want. Benefits or compensation may be reduced. Your office location or seating arrangement changes to make your work life more difficult. The social isolation intensifies. Toxic behavior toward you gets ignored or even tacitly encouraged. You may receive strong hints about exploring other options. You might be offered a small severance package to quietly resign. According to the same 2025 survey, 85% of companies say quiet firing tactics are effective at reducing headcount. But here is the uncomfortable truth. 77% of companies whose freeze-out efforts failed reported that employees simply decided finding a new job would be harder than toughing it out. The freeze-out works because leaving is painful, but staying is designed to be more painful. Let me tell you about what happened at a major telecom company in 2024. They announced a return-to-office policy requiring approximately 60,000 managers to work from just 9 office locations across the country. 9 locations for 60,000 people. About 9,000 employees faced an impossible choice: relocate your entire life or resign. One manager described it publicly as layoffs disguised as a return-to-office policy. The company avoided tens of millions in severance costs. The employees got nothing. Or consider what happened to a senior manager at a nutrition company in Canada. After 14 years of stellar performance, a merger brought new leadership. The new executives systematically stripped his responsibilities. They excluded him from meetings he had attended for over a decade. They cut him out of decisions about products he had helped develop. He was not fired. He was frozen out until he had no choice but to leave. He sued for constructive dismissal. The Canadian Supreme Court awarded him $1.1 million. The difference between these two outcomes? Documentation, strategy, and understanding what was happening before it was too late. Now look at your own workplace. Think about the last few weeks. Has your manager's communication style changed? Are you being excluded from meetings or decisions you used to be part of? Has your workload shifted in ways that do not make sense? Have you noticed colleagues acting differently around you? Are you learning about things that affect your job after everyone else already knows? If you are experiencing 2 or more of these warning signs, you may be in the early stages of a freeze-out. If you are experiencing 4 or more, you are likely already at stage 2 or 3. Here's what you need to understand. The freeze-out is designed to make you feel like you're going crazy. The ambiguity is intentional. Research published in the National Institutes of Health database notes that the difference between ostracism and other negative workplace experiences is that ostracism is not necessarily centered on causing obvious harm. The psychological damage comes from the ambiguity about not only why it is happening, but whether it is even happening at all. That ambiguity is your enemy. Documentation is your weapon. Here is what to do if you recognize these patterns. At stages 1 and 2, do not panic, but do not ignore it either. Request a direct meeting with your manager. Ask specific questions. What would it take to earn a promotion? How is my performance tracking? What are the priorities for this quarter? Their answers, or their evasions, will tell you everything. Start documenting every exclusion, every criticism, every change. Follow up verbal conversations with emails. Per our discussion today, create a paper trail of your own. At stages 3 and 4, you need to act faster. File internal complaints in writing. This does 2 things. It documents that you raised concerns, and it gives the company an opportunity to address the problem, which matters legally. Consult an employment lawyer. Many offer free consultations. Begin building your exit strategy. Update your resume. Strengthen your network. Start looking before you are desperate. At stage 5, understand that you still have leverage even in resignation. Research shows 80% of employees successfully negotiate better severance terms than initially offered. Push for extended health benefits, neutral reference letters, non-disparagement agreements, and written clarification of what HR will tell future employers. Do not just quit in frustration, quit strategically. And remember this, you can quit your team without quitting your organization. If your manager is the problem, start looking for internal transfers. Other departments do not know what is happening. Your reputation outside your immediate team may be intact. Use it. The freeze out works because it exploits your fundamental human need to belong. It activates the same brain circuitry as physical pain. It creates ambiguity that makes you doubt your own perception. And it relies on you not understanding the playbook until it is too late. But now you know the playbook. What you do with it is up to you. If this shifted how you see your workplace, hit subscribe. The game has more levels, and I will show you each one.